And joining me this morning to discuss that and other legal issues is Richard Dellinger with the Lowndes Law Firm. Good to see you. Appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with this case. Take us behind the scenes. What's really going on here where you can break it down so we understand what they're talking about?
So originally, the government went in and got an ex parte order. That means no one was able to respond to what the government was requesting. They got an order from the magistrate, and the magistrate said, I know Apple wants to have a response. I want to hear from them, and now Apple has had a chance to respond. In addition, we have heard from numerous tech companies all throughout California and all throughout the country, all of whom support Apple in their positions.
I've heard the analogy before. It's almost like the federal government coming up to a safe manufacturer and saying, make me a key for that because we need to get in. And by the way, make it to where we can get into every safe in the country just in case. Is that a good analogy or no?
That's a good analogy, and that's exactly what Apple is telling the government and what Apple is telling the judge that they're being asked to do. Apple is saying that we're being asked to create a master key to everyone's iPhone. We're being asked to create a backdoor entry into the iPhone, and it's not just for this case. It's not just for this single case. It'll be used all throughout the country. And in their brief, Apple cited to 150 other pending cases where the sheriff's office and the district attorney has said they would like the same information.
Oh, I'm sure they would. You always hear the analogy, though, or people say, I have nothing to hide, so I don't care. That's probably, is that valid or not? Because I don't think people think they have something to hide until they realize, hey, by the way, we want your search engine, we want your banking information. I mean, even though you don't have anything to hide, you don't necessarily want that out there.
You know, we all enjoy our privacy. We lock our doors for a reason. You know, one of the things Apple said in their pleadings is that if the government can force us to hack this phone, what's to stop the government from forcing us to open the microphone? What's to stop the government from forcing us to open the camera? What's to stop the government from forcing us to open the GPS tracking device so that they can use it as they think is appropriate for their investigation?
You know what's interesting? I don't know how old you are, but I find it that all of the legal issues we've been tackling on our show over the past couple of years, they're all technology, privacy. I mean, this is an area of law that is kind of untapped. We don't know what to expect right now. Is that what you're seeing in your practice? Is all this stuff's evolving so quickly, we don't have the laws to keep up with it?
There is no question that the privacy laws are in the forefront of legal issues, and intellectual property issues are in the forefront. And it is the younger generation who have the best knowledge of that technology. Let's be honest.
And you have older judges. We were joking about this before.
Yeah.
You have a lot of judges, and I was reading an article recently that said many of these judges don't even know how to use their email. They don't know that much about the web. They're still going back into law books trying to find case law, right?
Right.
And now they're being asked to decide on very complex technical issues. There's a disconnect there, isn't there?
Well, we have very good judges here in Orlando. Very good judges who have worked to become technologically advanced. I know we have one judge here who actually has automated the courthouse, automated our federal courthouse so that our pleadings are now electronic. We get orders electronically. The courthouse is doing its best to keep up with technology, but you know, we can't move at the pace that they're moving in Silicon Valley.
No, even my kids are like, Dad, get off Facebook. Everybody's on whatever the new one is this week. It's hard to keep up. And okay, that springboards into an interesting conversation about privacy, because this week trial started for Hulk Hogan, also a verdict in the Erin Andrews case. What do you see the connection between all these? Is it just your private life is no longer really private anymore?
Well, you know, we put a lot of information out there, and what we have learned from these two cases is once it's out there, it's extremely difficult to get it back.
The Hulk Hogan case, first of all, you see him in court. What do we need to know about this case?
You know, one of the things I thought was interesting about the Hulk Hogan case was Hulk Hogan is trying to compare his case to the Erin Andrews case. And there are significant differences between those two cases. The Erin Andrews case was someone who looked through a peephole without her permission in a place where she thought was private. The Hulk Hogan case is completely different. I mean, he is engaged in an act in someone else's house with someone else's wife, and there's an argument about whether he thought that was a private encounter.
Even though, again, in that case, apparently consensual, but the video gets out, and now they're trying to figure out who owns it. I guess once it's out there, in the Erin Andrews case, who does own it?
Well,
nobody, right? But somebody gets sued in the bottom line.
Well, you know, we still don't know who actually gave the Hulk Hogan video. I mean, it's a confidential source who turned over the Hulk Hogan video to Gawker. Yeah. And Gawker has not disclosed who that source was. Now, there are only two people who probably would have that video, right?
Yeah.
It's Bubba the Love Sponge or his wife. Who turned it over?
Right. Somebody had to. Let's go back to the Erin Andrews case very quickly, because people hear a verdict of, what, nearly $50 million. She's not getting a check for $50 million. Where does it go from here? How does that work?
Well, you know, half of that verdict was against the individual who looked through the peephole and has been prosecuted and is serving 30 months in jail.
He's got no money. He's
got no money and no ability to pay it. So the other half is against the Marriott in the Marriott hotel. Mm-hmm. They are probably going to appeal. So it will be a long time before Erin Andrews gets paid. Before she gets paid, she'll have to pay her lawyers, and generally it's 35 to 40% of the verdict. She's going to have cost. A trial like this is extremely expensive. Some have estimated in the $1 million, $2 million range. So by the time you break down the attorney's fees, by the time you break down the cost, and you take off the part that's never going to be collectible, hers is anywhere from $6 to $10 million.
That's why they settle and say, okay, how about we stroke you check for this, right?
Right.
It goes that way.
Hey, but that's
and it makes sense. No, it is a lot of money. It makes sense why that happens. And we got about a minute left here. I want to talk to you also. You had said there's some changes taking place in the Florida appeals judges that should be of interest to people. What's going on there?
So we know that there has been a redistricting battle where the legislature has not fared well in the courts. Mm-hmm. Some believe that the legislature is taking revenge on the courts by imposing term limits on our Court of Appeals judges. And there's a bill currently pending in the Florida legislature to impose term limits on our Court of Appeals judges.
Good idea, bad idea?
Most attorneys believe it's a bad idea.
Why so?
If you're an attorney and you're one of the best, you give up your practice to become a judge. You then stop your practice for 12 years or so. It's very difficult to go back into practice.
You'd have to start all over at whatever age you're then 50, 55, trying to start all over again.
Exactly.
Right?
So you're probably going to not get the best judges in those positions with term limits.
All right, very good stuff. Legal Roundup today. Richard Dellinger, Lowndes Law Firm. What's your website in case people want to check you out?
www.lowndes-law.com.
All right. Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.